Hey guys, what's up? This is Force of Force StarCraft 2 Strategy, your number one location for step-by-step strategy and tutorial videos. Today we're going to be taking a look again at that Cloak Banshee build, but I'm going to be showing you what to do if it doesn't succeed at taking out your enemy, basically if they prepared properly for it. And I'm going to show you how to transition from that Cloak Banshee build into Siege Tank and Viking, which is a very strong build versus Terran player, but kind of moving from one thing to the other, having them respond to the Cloak Banshees and then hitting them with that Siege Tank Viking. That's basically what we're going to be looking at. So this is again going to be in a Terran versus Terran matchup. This is a game between myself and Christoph. And so what we're going to be looking at here is basically that Cloak Banshee opener that I've gone over before, but then transitioning again into that Siege Tank Viking. So we're starting off with that 10 supply and following up that supply depot by getting the refinery as opposed to getting that barracks. So again, any of these builds as Terran where we're looking to tech up very quickly, that's basically the build order that you're going to be looking to do in the very beginning, because it really does make a vast difference if you get that refinery or that barracks first. Now after we do set down our first supply depot, we're going to be going ahead and sending out a scout to our opponent's base. As you can see, it's rallied over here. And obviously the point of doing this is because scouting is important and you should do it always. But the point of doing this is to check if we're going to be getting any sort of cheese from the opposing Terran player. Looking if we're going to be getting a bunker Reaper Rush, which is a possibility. Also looking if we're going to be getting any sort of mass marine early on, which could hurt us if we weren't able to see it and weren't able to prepare for it. Now, for example, if he was going for that mass marine build, what we would do is we would then put a bunker or two in front of our base, load it up with some marines, and that would effectively counter that mass marine. If we saw Reaper, what we'd want to do is we'd want to attach a tech lab here to our barracks, get a marauder, and respond that way. So again, it's just this whole game, and everything you do in this game is about seeing what your opponent's doing and your proper response to it, or forcing your opponent into a certain type of response. I've said that a trillion, a million, billion times, and I'll say it just as many times in the future, because it must be reiterated. You guys must be aware of that, because it's really important. So taking a look back here at the build order, again, we went with that refinery right after the supply depot, and then followed that up with a barracks at 12 supply with our first 150 minerals. And now, as soon as that refinery comes up, you want to saturate it with 3 SCVs, and basically what's going to happen is the second that your barracks is done building, you're going to have enough SPN to go ahead and build your factory. And that's precisely what you want to do. You want to start building your factory. Going to be getting an orbital command. I get it at 18 here. It was a little bit late because of the fact that I wanted to pump out that early marine. It put me 50 minerals behind because I wanted to get rid of that SCV scout that was inside of my base. So that's basically the only reason. Usually I get that orbital command around 16 supply. But this game it was just set off a little bit because I needed to create that early marine. Scouting around my base looking for anything funky going on, seeing if there's another SCV in there. I'm also going to check in there momentarily. Now, as you can see, the mineral and Vespian count is going to work out perfectly so that as soon as your factory is done building, you can go ahead and build your starport. Now, you may be questioning why I'm building my starport all the way over here. Well, the answer to that question is very, very simple. What this is going to do is if my opponent scans me, he's likely to scan in this vicinity. He's not likely to scan all the way over here. So I'm effectively hiding my starport tech. I'm hiding the fact that I'm going for this. So if I get hit with a scan in the probable location, which is right here, he's not going to see that I have my starport up. And as you can see in his base, he's probably going to be assuming that I'm going for a same type of base build. Players just tend to do that. They think, well, if I'm doing it, then my opponent must be doing something similar to it. And that's actually precisely why he's liable to scan in this vicinity. So my starport was up. While I was building my starport, we were attaching that tech lab to the factory. So as soon as the starport's done building, we're lifting off that factory, dropping it in the tech lab, and going to immediately start building our Banshees. Now, I hadn't mentioned the timing here of this refinery. You're going to be dropping that refinery right after you start your orbital command building. Go ahead and build that refinery, and then once it's up, saturate it, because you're going to need a lot of SPN for that. As soon as you drop this starport on the tech lab, the first thing you want to start researching is Cloak, and then as soon as you have the Vespian, go ahead and start researching your first Banshee. So here we are. We're in this position. We have the 1-1-1 build going, and we're at the point where we're getting ready to hit our opponent with those Cloak Banshees. Now, as you can see, he is prepared for this. He knows that Cloak Banshees quick is a pretty popular strategy, so he's prepared for this by getting some Marines. He's also preparing for a switch by getting these siege tanks and getting ready to push out in case my Banshee rush fails, which he's planning on it doing because of these turrets here. So this is an adequate defense. This is a proper defense. Now what I'm doing is I'm preparing for any sort of a counterattack by putting up this bunker, having it filled with some Marines, and then I'm switching right here into my siege tank tech. So what I'm going to be doing is I have my 2 Banshees, I had my 1 there and my 2nd queued up. Now with my next 100 Vespian, what I'm going to be doing is start researching siege tech, and then as soon as I have the Vespian to do so, I'm going to be getting my siege tank. So this is effectively the switch. You know, I'm moving out with these Banshees, I'm preparing to hit him, but in case it doesn't work, again, I really haven't seen the fact that he's got a ton of turrets up, but I'm thinking, okay, well, he's probably a pretty good player. We're in the top tier of the Diamond League. I can't count on him being bad. Never underestimate your opponent. That's probably the worst thing you can do. So I'm preparing for it by getting ready to switch into the siege tank Viking mode. Now after the 2nd Banshee comes up, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating some Vikings. I'm also, with these excess minerals, getting some Marines just as support units. Now we're going to take a look here at my Banshee. I did a scan, so I was well aware of the turret location, so I could try to circumvent them. I didn't see this one with the scan, unfortunately. I think I ended up getting hit. No, okay, so I didn't get hit, so I played it smart. Basically, what you want to try to do is you want to try to find a location in your opponent's base where those turrets are not covering, and do what you can. Now, he was able to take some pop shots because of the scan, and so I'm waiting for my 2nd Banshee moving in. And again, what we're going to do is, just because these turrets are up, and just because it's going to basically push us back a little bit, and it's going to make our rush here with these Banshees not as effective, that doesn't mean we should completely give up on it. You always want to go through and do as much harass as possible. And when we've put the time and we've put the energy and the resources into getting these Banshees, we might as well get as much out of them as we can. So I'm going to be coming around, staying just out of the reach of these 2 turrets. I'm going to take out this refinery. I'm going to take out what SCVs I can. But again, we're going to go back and take a look at our base. All the while I'm doing this, all the while this is going on, I'm preparing for my switch here. I'm getting my siege tanks. I did see this expansion go up here, so I know I need to respond with an expansion or else I'm going to be way behind. I have my Marines, my siege tanks are up, siege tech is researched, and I have my Vikings coming out. So this is the transition here. This is the response to the fact that our early game hit wasn't as successful as we would have liked it to be. Ideally, obviously, we'd want to hit them with the Banshees. We want them to have no cloak detection, and we just want to wipe them out early. I mean, a fast win is much better than a long win, because, you know, the faster you win games, the quicker you can get more wins. That's the way I see it anyways. Now, I was pushed back finally, because my cloak had just run out. He had a bunch of Marines up here, and he's building this other turret, so I decided, okay, I can go ahead and stop the harassment. But we still got some benefit of it. As you can see, these Banshee right here, he has 4 kills. We were able to take out the refinery, which set him back greatly in siege tank production. He does have his base going up right now, but still no refiners on there, so his Vespian's going to be hurting greatly because of that hit. And that alone might be sufficient reason to justify that attack there. I mean, it definitely was successful. And again, prepared for that transition here. Right after we started sending out those Banshees, right after we started building them, we prepared by putting another tech lab down on this factory, getting that siege tech, and then getting siege tanks and Vikings. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of the strength behind a siege tank Viking build, siege tank and Vikings is a very strong Terran versus Terran build in general. Siege tanks take care of any sort of bio ball your opponent may be getting, and Vikings take care of any Banshees they may have. But the real key thing about the Vikings are they give your tanks vision. Tanks are the one unit that can shoot further than they can see, or they're one of the units that can shoot further than they can see. So for example here, the tank can't see past this area, but if you push your Vikings forward and get vision right here, then they can shoot this area that's beyond their normal sight. You may be wondering why I even mention that, or is it even relatively important? Well, it's very important, because in siege tank versus siege tank battles, the siege tanks with the vision are going to be the successors. So getting those Vikings to give your tanks visions are going to make them put your siege tanks in the position where they can kill your opponent's siege tanks. So a lot of times what you'll be seeing in Terran vs. Terran is you'll only be getting a handful of siege tanks but a ton of Vikings, because the player who has that air superiority, the player who can control the air and give their tanks vision, is the one who's going to be able to do the most amount of damage. If that doesn't make any sense, I'm sorry I didn't explain myself well enough. I'll go over it again some other time when I cover this strategy in another video. So what you can see here is after I got my about 4 or 5 siege tanks, I've got a handful of Marines, and I've got some decent air right here. I've got that 1 Banshee saved up. I've got some more Vikings coming. I'm pushing into my opponent's base, taking out his back door. I did see that he had this expansion here, and I saw that he had it defended with some siege tanks as well as up here, but I realized he had absolutely nothing in his back door. Now that's a huge blunder on his part, and it's going to be the reason he lost the game. We were still in a better position than him regardless, because of that early game harass and because we took out his refinery and put him behind an Vespian. So I mean, it's not like we were going to lose, but it's still, he was at such a disadvantage for not watching that back door. This attack is just going to be completely devastating for him. And as you can see, our siege tanks, having that further vision because of those Vikings, are just able to demolish these tanks before they can even siege up. And that's exactly the benefit here. He does have these 2 Vikings. We're going to be able to take out almost all of them with our Vikings, and then we're going to mop up that last one with our Marine here. And there you go. I mean, this was an effective counterattack. It was an effective transition, and our opponent just wasn't properly prepared for it. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So just going over things really quick, we started off with that basic opener. Going for those fast Banshees, which consist of that 10 supply depot followed by the refinery, and then getting a barracks around 12. Saturate that refinery once it comes up. As soon as your barracks is done building, you want to drop your factory. Then go ahead and get an orbital command around between 16 and 18, depending on if you spend minerals to get a Marine. Once that orbital command's building, get your second refinery. Now once your factory is done building, you want to go ahead and get your starport, attach a tech lab onto your factory. Once the starport's done building, switch it up, and then get your Banshee. So that's a quick overview of that fast Banshee. And then preparing for that transition, we're getting a factory, we're getting a tech lab on our factory, getting those siege tanks, and then switching from Banshees into Vikings. And as you can see, it was an effective countermeasure, and it worked in our benefit. So again, guys, this has been Force with Force StarCraft 2 Strategy, your #1 location for step-by-step strategy and tutorial videos. If you guys like our videos here and you like what we're doing, please do subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys.